Welcome to issue 202.3 of Critical Encounters, a podcast about Marvel Champions, a living card game by Fantasy Flight Games. Here we take a good look at that most critical piece of the game, the encounter sets. We'll discuss those poorly understood characters, unfairly labeled villains, and their various plans to shape humanity and benefit the planet, as well as those so-called heroes intent on thwarting them. I'm one of your hosts, Bill, and joining me tonight is Daniel. How you doing, Daniel?
Hello, Bill. Welcome back.
Thank you.
Or
Thank
welcome
you.
still, I guess.
Yeah. We're just doing a camping week here.
It really is a marathon.
Yeah, it's been nice. And it's nice to know my new friend, James. James is with us tonight. How you doing tonight, James?
I'm doing so good, Bill. I brought a little thing for my nose to keep it blocked tonight, so no smells. All going well.
Okay. All right. Yep, it gets a little ripe in here at times. And our buddy, Steve. Steve, how you doing tonight?
Good. Apparently, I'm going to need to assign a minion to clean this place up and hunt down those smells. So,
I thought he would take it with him this time, but no, he didn't.
Well, you noticed Mike isn't here. He jumped off. He was here for a couple, and he's not here now.
Typical Mike.
Typical Mike. That's right. Quick reminder what we're doing. This is the part 3. So if for some reason this is the first one you're listening to, go back 2 days to part 1. We're doing 5 parts, a lore segment for each of our mansion attack villains, and then we're going to talk all about the encounter sets and stuff in part 5. And tonight we're going to get right to it with James and Avalanche. So take it away.
Okay, well, if we can, let's cast our minds back to May 11th, 2021. And that was issue 65 of Critical Encounters, if you can believe it.
Wow, was I there?
What?
You were still on the show, Daniel.
Nice.
You were still on the show. If you haven't heard it, go back. These are short episodes, so we won't do a diddly-doo, 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 and go back. But the wonderful deck builder, Dr. 00, who said that you can call him Drew, I guess, which is probably his preferred name. I always thought it was Dr. Ooh. He helped us walk through the mysterious appearance of Avalanche as one of the best Nemesis sets in the game, especially when it was released. But the big mystery of the episode was why on earth was he picked as a Nemesis for the ironically slow-building, fast and furious speedster known as Quicksilver. But today, he is finally making an appearance in a location that makes sense, standing alongside the new Brotherhood of Evil Mutants. A really quick note for people, just in case you never read the comics, also the 90s animated series, but have seen a newer series, there is someone called Lance Alvers. That is not the Avalanche we're talking about today. This is the 80s comics, 90s animated series. His name is Dominikos Petrakis, and I'm really sorry to everyone in Greece for that pronunciation. So, Dominikos is a mutant from Crete in Greece, but is a naturalized American, much like me, only I'm English originally. And he possesses the ability to generate seismic waves from his hands that are strong enough to create earthquakes of varying sizes and to disintegrate any substance other than living tissue. He's been a member of the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants. He's been a general rogue and free agent. He's been a member of Freedom Force that was mentioned in the last episode. He's that government-sanctioned form of the Brotherhood, which was led by Mystique also. He's been part of SWORD, the Sentient World Observation and Response Department, because you have to make words work. Yep. X-Corps, as well as my personal favorite, going it straight by the name Nick, and running the imaginatively named bar Nick's in San Francisco. So this is like a little bit of a buddy thing with Blob that I think he's had a little bit of rivalry with in the past. But Blob went off to aside from being a weight loss guru, start a tiki bar. Note to everyone out there: if you want to lose weight, do not open a tiki bar. There's a lot of calories in tiki cocktails. They are strong, so not a good idea. But this one is Nick's in San Francisco, and even when he's doing this, the X-Men turn up to bully him.
Really?
Right?
Of course they do.
Yeah.
Like, classic so-called heroes don't really believe that people can reform.
The X-Men are villains in these episodes, clearly.
Well, when you're established by someone like Professor X, and we all know what he's like, it is no surprise where they end up. Okay, well, his backstory is really thoroughly and beautifully laid out when he first appears. Made it really easy for me. He appears on New Year's Day, 1981, in issue 141 of Uncanny X-Men. So this is a lot later than Toad, right? Toad is right there at the beginning.
Mhm.
Now it's being written by Chris Claremont, who's really the godfather of the X-Men in many respects, and John Byrne. And he's introduced in a narration box as follows. This is my dramatic narration box. Avalanche, whose touch crumbles any inanimate object, creating an irresistible avalanche tidal wave effect with earth, stone, steel, anything. It actually sounded more like Storm from the animated series.
Excellent. Bravo.
That is his entire backstory.
I love
Question.
the avalanche / tidal wave effect. Oh my god,
Yeah.
that's brilliant.
Yeah. Why is flesh spared? That is my question.
So why did Toad develop a pile of new powers as the years went on? Why did Jean Grey disappear and reappear? Why did... I think it's best when it comes to the X-Men to not really think about it and just go with it.
Just don't ask questions. Yeah.
You don't ask questions and you take the retcon. Just take the retcon. It is what it is. Actually, speaking of retcons, I mean, here's a classic place, right? In the comics run, this is part of the Days of Future Past arc, right? Which sounds familiar for people. There's an MCU version of this in which Kitty, right, in the comics, is sent back to stop the assassination of Robert Kelly, that dude we've seen. In the animated series in the 90s, Bishop, he's sent back via a machine built by Forge. And then in the MCU, Wolverine is sent back by Kitty to stop Mystique from going after Bolivar Trask. So, and in that one, Avalanche isn't even there. So, just more classic shenanigans.
We never see Avalanche in any of the movies, right?
Maybe they just didn't have the money to do
tidal wave / avalanche effect.
That's it.
Effect.
You have this wonderful piece of art which will be available for folks to look in the YouTube, and it has this little text box for the history of some of these characters. I love Pyro, who controls living flame. That's it. And then
what else you need?
And then Blob.
Yeah.
And last but not least, the Blob, only recently escaped from prison, a man whom no physical force can harm. That's it.
That's it.
Awesome.
But thankfully, Daniel's already taken us through, obviously, everything that we'd forgotten, which they must have already forgotten when they were writing this comic, that is, he did come from the circus.
Right.
Okay, anyway. So there's this self-titled demonstration of his power, and this was actually mentioned by Drew, when he was in the episode a long time ago. It kind of confuses me because, Blob picks up this statue to attack Pyro, and Avalanche disintegrates it, but he's not actually touching it. And it's really clear in the panel prior that he has to touch it. And then you skip forwards, to the next comic issue that he's in, and then it's changed to beams of force hammer out from his hands. You skip forwards a bit. Oh, actually, I have a quick trivia question for you guys. This depends on how well you remember Drew's fantastic work. Before his next appearance with the X-Men, can anyone recall what he does? He has this great harebrained scheme. If you want to make some money and your name is Avalanche,
you become a ski instructor.
Yeah, you see, I said that because I knew that would send you down the wrong direction. That's wrong. Yeah.
Threaten something of value?
Threaten something of value. Maybe somewhere, a people or a place that might be scared of seismic activity.
Oh, California.
The whole state of
California.
Whole state. He wants to blackmail the whole state of California. Then he bumps into a guy called Landslide, who's with Mole Man, who has basically the same powers, which is really awkward.
That's like wearing the same dress to the prom.
Yeah, and then he thinks, maybe I'll just blackmail Mole Man and get diamonds. Villain logic at times. Not as smart as Toad, clearly. And then here comes that, anything that's not organic. The Hulk turns up because why not? He battles the Hulk. He does his whole thing towards the Hulk, but it rebounds and it shatters all the bones in his body. And to be fair, Hulk is an immovable object, as we know. Like if there's one thing that Hulk's good at in the game, it's standing there and taking a hit. That whole rebound thing like breaks every bone in his arms, and I guess from there they kind of decided, he can't just rip people apart with this power he has.
I remember talking about that in 182, where like he can hurt himself with his powers, but not other people. Like his own flesh is vulnerable, but not other people's flesh for some reason.
Right.
Yeah.
And that seems like a really cartoon kind of thing. Like it's surprising that they have that in the comic. Like it can get dark. Like later on, he does manage to he manages to freeze Colossus, which I guess isn't really him freezing it. He like knocks over some liquid nitrogen trucks into Colossus and like freezes him solid. So yeah, I guess he doesn't really do it with his powers. It's more just he gets inconveniently placed liquid nitrogen trucks that were all around Colossus at the time. But in a really, really short space of time, he basically goes from like touching things to then being like waves. And then by I think it's by issue 178 of Uncanny X-Men, it's his mental command. At the villain's mental command, concrete and steel flow like water. So it's kind of Toad-like, but it's clearly just sticking with the same power.
These guys are bananas.
A bit. Yeah. And ironically, he can't use his force against bananas, which is why he's bananas. You know?
They're too fleshy.
Maybe the water
They're
content
organic.
is too high. Maybe it's just anything with too much water content. I don't know.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, but all in all, he's like a character that's created and then figured out, I think, as things go on, which I don't think is that weird for the time. That's kind of him. I have a quick list of his greatest hits that I'm going to rattle off for you guys, because he's had an interesting time. He attempts to blackmail the state of California. He's broken out of prison, immediately ends up back in prison, breaks out of prison again. Freezes Colossus with liquid nitrogen. He helps capture Magneto, which I think is really impressive when he's with the Freedom Force. Now, he does have a couple of moments, and this is for you, Daniel. I know you love the humanizing moments.
Oh, thank you for this. Thank you, James.
He does demonstrate at times that he's just not happy at the idea of hunting down other mutants, which, that sounds good. Clearly isn't bothered causing chaos and destruction for humans. Though to be fair, X-Men's kind of dark. Like it's pretty rough, especially from the comic side. I mean, all of the human species is just really awful to mutants, and he's not happy about that.
I like that he knows his people. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, and then he does like the idea of going after X-Factor. X-Factor is basically the original mutants, right? The original X-Men, but now pretending to hunt mutants, but actually to save them.
Okay.
Classic, why not?
Mm-hmm.
He's worked alongside the X-Men when Dallas transformed into a place populated with dinosaurs and Neanderthals.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but that was Dallas. That was not Blob's hometown.
Okay.
Ironically, he's forced to save Robert Kelly at one point from a drug cartel, which is kind of funny. He's had his stomach cut open by Lady Deathstrike. Who's Pyro? Who's going to be Pyro?
I'm
Steve.
Pyro. Yeah.
I think he's got a really soft spot for Pyro, and I'll wait for you to talk about Pyro. But one thing that is running, he has a lot of compassion towards Pyro, and like always goes out of his way to try and help him. He had a secret warehouse in Alexandria, about 15 minutes away from where I am in Virginia, but I couldn't find it when I looked. He went back for 2 more Kelly assassination attempts after he's tried, failed, saved him from an assassination attempt, went back, tried 2 more times. Classic. The whole Nix bar thing happens that I mentioned. But the really sad thing, like at the end, he's eventually captured by Red Skull's S-Men. I'm not familiar with S-Men. I haven't read this. I don't know how dark we can get on the show. You can always just, this is not bad language. You can bleep it out if it's too much. But he gets lobotomized, brainwashed, makes a terrorist attack to like reignite the public fear of mutants, and then jumps to his death, like of his own. I guess not really his own, volition, because he was lobotomized and brainwashed. It's just like, man, that really, really stinks.
Tragic end.
James, do not let your heart be troubled. They never stay dead, and they never stay lobotomized. They always come back.
Thank
So-
you,
Did
Bill.
he, did
Just-
he
just
get
wait.
to grow a new frontal lobe?
Thank you, Bill.
He'll find one somewhere. They're laying
Okay.
around. You know,
Maybe there'll be some
secondhand
kind
shop.
of like deep earthquake or avalanche that will like reignite his spirit and he'll come back.
Yeah.
So
I hope
don't
so.
know. Oh, yeah, he's probably already back. What do I know? Oh, and actually, I did miss one important thing as well. You know that big tower in France? I think it's in Paris. The big like pointy one made of metal that people are looking
I've
at.
seen it before. I've seen a picture
Yeah.
of that.
He, collapses that at some point.
Oh,
Right.
cool.
Oh,
You know,
nice.
Yeah.
So, criminal, tries to go good, goes good with the government on that Freedom Force thing. Is that good? I don't know. And then he kind of just stays bad, tries to be good. X-Men bully him, goes bad again, and then has a pretty untimely death. So that's Avalanche, but at least he's in the right place now. At least he's, you'll notice I didn't mention Quicksilver once here because he's not really got a whole lot with Quicksilver.
Right.
well, thanks, James. That was awesome.
Yeah, that was good.
Yeah.
Really good.
If we don't have any questions, let's look at his card, huh?
Yeah,
Let's
take a
look at these cards.
So you can find his cards in the Mutant Genesis campaign box, the fourth scenario, 25 total cards, 10 set of cards, 15 encounter cards. And we'll talk about 2 cards tonight. So I'm quickening my boots here. I want to know what's going on. So James, tell us about this card.
So we have Avalanche A, and funnily enough, Avalanche B. So Avalanche A, he has 2 scheme, 3 attack, toughness, thankfully a victory of 2, and he has 15 hit points with a forced response after his attack that after Avalanche attacks you, exhaust an ally you control. I gotta say, I know, Daniel, you're a big fan of the loincloths and things. This is a real squat that...
He's got
I
amazing thighs that he can do.
I can see all the muscles
And
beyond
other
the
things.
thighs. They really they went for it with that. But you can really see from the art, right? Like he's got his hands outstretched. Again, at the beginning, I think the whole idea is that he has to touch it, but already we can see he's like, got his arms outstretched. And so both on A, where he has 15 hit points, B, where he has 18, after Avalanche attacks you, exhaust an ally you control. So I guess, his general attack is disrupting you and your team.
Yeah, it won't work on Mike. Mike
No.
doesn't use allies, right?
That's why he ran
Right.
away.
So he's
Yeah.
like, skip Avalanche. No worries.
Mm.
He does have a 4 attack on the B side, which is pretty solid. I mean, that's a high number.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's not very many 4s, right?
No, there's not too many.
In the game.
Plus the boost card, right? He doesn't have to damage you. He just has to attack you, and he's going to exhaust somebody. So he's kind of hitting for 2, whoever you're defending with, you're exhausting, and then he's knocking someone else down with some collateral quakeage going on around him.
Maybe that's why the attack's so high, because, if you only have one ally out and you're thinking, I'm going to hide behind this sucker and chump them, well, they're gone. And then there's nothing else to exhaust, so at least he has to do 4. If he
Right.
didn't, problematic.
Mike last week was saying, or yesterday was saying, like a cool difference between A and B could have been, and here the force response for the B side could be when he attacks you, exhaust an ally you control.
When
So
he
you cannot-
initiates
when he
an
initiates
attack
it,
against you.
yes.
So before
Yeah.
you can't
Not
even
jump.
use the ally. Yeah.
Yeah, so you cannot jump, and then you exhaust the ally you were
Mhm.
going to jump with anyway.
Yeah,
Yeah.
forced interrupt when
Right.
Avalanche attacks you. Yeah, that
Mhm.
that would have really cranked him up a notch. So
Yeah.
And an interesting thing with this one as well, of course, is he's the first one of the Brotherhood that we already have a card for previously, because we do have him as the Quicksilver Nemesis, and that one, of course, was an Insight 2 situation. So he comes out and he puts 2 threat on, and then when revealed, you either had to exhaust your identity or take 2 indirect damage. He did 2. If you took the 2 indirect damage, he's hitting you for 4 when he comes out, when he decides to swing. And if not, there was a little bit of that exhaustion, even way back when in Quicksilver's Nemesis set as well.
Which is absolutely devastating when he comes out. Trust me, I have lost many
So
games
So
to the
good.
Quicksilver Nemesis. Yeah,
Insight 2.
yeah. Throw that on the main scheme.
Yeah, now we don't want to get too confused. There are the 4 minion versions of them in the Brotherhood modular set.
Mhm.
But yeah, Avalanche is the only one who came out well before those Brotherhood cards, which all pretty much line up with their villain versions. So yeah, they do pretty much exactly the same thing.
Which the minion set is required when you're playing with Avalanche, right? That's not an option modular set.
Right. Yeah, they'll be out as villains and minions. So.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Well, Bill, where does he like to hang out?
He likes to hang out in the courtyard.
Well, of course he does.
Seems like a good place. So the courtyard, of course, side 2A mirrors all the other locations or main schemes. So the courtyard, when you flip that over, it says that each character gets +1 attack. So all characters on the table get +1 attack while the courtyard is out. So Expert Avalanche is not just that 4 attack. He's 5 attack. He's a 5 attack. And after Avalanche attacks you, exhausts an ally you control. So when completed, it says add this scheme to the victory display, advance to the next card in the main scheme deck. There are 3 main schemes in the victory display. The player loses game. It begins with 1 threat on it, and it gets 1 threat added each turn. Threats out at 7 per player. Seems like a low threat threshold, too.
Yeah, it's funny. The courtyard, it's probably better for the other characters whose effects are when they damage you. Right. When Blob damages a character, stun that character, giving Blob extra damage. But they got a picture of Avalanche on the courtyard, so he's out there throwing some rocks around, I guess, with Colossus. I don't see any liquid nitrogen, though, in the art.
No.
Bummer.
So one thing I noticed and thought about is, you've got Xavier's Institute, and the schematics of this building, the courtyard itself also houses the basketball court. So, to your point, you've got on this side, we've got Colossus, throwing literal rocks at Avalanche, throwing literal rocks at Colossus, and on the other side, we've got Toad, wrapping his neck around Colossus whilst playing with the rock. I mean, I guess it makes sense that this is where Avalanche would be, right? I don't think he's got super survival powers for being collapsed in a building. So he kind of has to be outside. Mm-hmm. I mean, what's he going to do? Bring the building down on top of him?
Yeah, he doesn't want to do that.
No. I remember, Daniel, when we were playing this, I think at this point, when +1 attack comes out and it's each character, you've got, boot camp on the table. You've got some X-Men upgrades going down on people. Maybe someone's enraged, storms out, giving everyone else +1. I mean, if there's a lot of people, if it's more than solo and you've got the allies out and they're not yet exhausted, you're just flying through whoever it is.
Yeah, that was a quick round.
Yeah,
could be real swingy either way.
Yeah, if there's not more to say about Avalanche that was in the courtyard, I think we can move on. Bill, do you have? We're going to let you be Mike tonight.
Wow, what an honor!
All right. So, have you ever had a seismic quake in your courtyard? If you have, you can tell us about it at Critical Encounters at
Sounded dirty.
Well, that's initially what the art on Avalanche's card was, a seismic event. It reminds me like when I was in Peace Corps in West Africa and like volunteers trying to figure out how to use the kind of the outdoor latrine squat. That was
holes in the floor.
Yeah, that was really it. I mean, that art is the first thing I thought. Like,
it looks like he's exerting a lot of force to release himself of this seismic activity.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Oh well.
Sorry, I
guess they won't be contacting us anymore. All right. Just pick up from where we left off.
Don't pick it up, Bill. Leave it on the ground.
Hurry up. Keep reading.
Okay. You can email us at criticalencounterspod@gmail.com. We are Critical Encounters on Facebook. You can find our YouTube channel or Patreon by searching for Critical Encounters Podcast. And on Discord, we are Vardane, Big Flum Loaf, Wandering Took, Board Game Lawyer, and Darcy. If you like our show, tell your friends. If you don't like our show, tell your enemies. Avalanche, take us out.
Come out and fight, or I'll bring the whole building down.